Welcome to the Mutual Aid Report. The Mutual Aid Report delves into the concept of mutual aid and unpacks its historical significance and its role in local communities by spotlighting individuals who are making a real difference at the grassroots level in the city of Chicago. Let's elevate the profile of mutual aid, shed light on these community-based initiatives, and motivate others to either join or back existing ventures. Let's get right into it.
Good afternoon, Chicago. WLP, NLP, Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpin' Radio. This is the Mutual Aid Report. I'm Mario Smith. Thank you so much for spending some of your day with us. We are back for a new season of informative radio. We give you an opportunity to be introduced to organizations that are doing work around the city of Chicago. And if you need help or if you can help, we provide an opportunity for you to get some of both. Thank you today in advance to Charlie Garcia, who is our producer, Ariana Luna, who will be our co-host on this season of the Mutual Aid Report, and to our executive producer, Stephanie Manriquez. Today, we have a repeat guest, the Orange Tent Project, and we are joined by Mary Kate Mack. She is one of the founding board members of the Orange Tent Project. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mario. I'm happy to be here representing the Orange Tent Project.
When we had you guys on in season 1, I do believe it was, since this is season 2, we talked a lot about the organization and the work that it does in terms of putting the tents up and providing safe space for Chicago's houseless. A lot has happened since the last time we had you guys on there, and there is a lot to cover for sure. When we had you on the last time, we were in the midst of the Biden administration. That has now changed. We know that based on past history with the Trump administration, he is wont to make sweeping change. Not all of them stick, and not all of them stay. We also did not have a major issue with our new neighbors, with the migrants coming in from around the country into Chicago. I'm curious, how has Orange Tent Project been able to serve that community of folks who are new to Chicago, and what exactly has been the plan when it comes to our new neighbors?
Sure, I think that's a great question. You know, the mission of the Orange Tent Project doesn't change when we think about the new neighbors coming to our city. You know, we're continuing to work with new arrivals to our city the same way that we've always been. We treat them as we do all our neighbors. And if we have the funding to build tents for them, then we will, in the same way that we process things currently with our current houseless community. You mentioned, Mario, the Trump administration, and I think as an organization, we have this fear that with the influx of migrants flocking to Chicago as a sanctuary city from nearby states or for fear of deportation or what have you, the city of Chicago, I don't know if you know this, just combined the shelter system. So migrants and the people that are currently experiencing homelessness will now share the same system, and they've closed about 4 migrant-specific shelters. So if we thought that we didn't have the space before, think again. I think it's kind of our current challenge.
I also know that the city is facing, if we're being honest, quite the budget crunch. There is not enough money, apparently, for Mayor Johnson to finalize his budget that is going to be due at the end of December. What's the socioeconomic impact in your mind when we start talking about new neighbors and the ability to be able to keep them safe and sheltered?
That's a really great question. I can't really speak to what Mayor Johnson and his budget process looks like, but I do know that, again, with the influx of people we've seen that are in need of assistance, the resources have remained either the same or lessened in a lot of areas. So we've really had to rely on putting our heads together with other city agencies to more or less make ends meet and meet the needs of our neighbors who are in crisis.
Is it a matter of boots on the ground when we start talking about how to because there are two battles being fought, right? You already have people who are without homes who you serve. You have an influx of new people coming in who you serve, and the intention is to serve them all in the same fashion. No one gets preferential treatment over the other. But what kind of pressure, or if not pressure might be a bad word, but what kind of uh, because everything has a breaking point at some point, right? How does the Orange Tent Project serve these two very different communities and treat them all as one?
Yeah, I mean, our three main values are respect, dignity, and collaboration. And I think that last piece is the one that sticks out for me, most importantly, and for the organization. You know, we live in a world of great need, and I feel as though that need continues to grow, especially in terms of houselessness in our city. Very quickly here over time, especially as we approach, these colder months. We live by this phrase from Max Lucado that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And so I would say that right now we've really leaned into our volunteer base as well as community organizations in the city to just support our mission. We're proudly partnering with different organizations and really just ramping up the efforts where encouraging people to get involved in any way that they can, whether it's, like you said, boots on the ground or financial contribution.
And you have a very long partners list that we're going to get into. We're very proud to say that Mars Brewing Company is one of the very proud sponsors of the Orange
We
Tent
love them.
Project.
We
Yeah,
love them.
we're all quite fond of them.
Yeah.
Very much so. I'm curious too. What was that like for your organization when Governor Abbott, the governor of Texas, uh, started doing what he did? How I know it's like, oh my God, we don't have time to think. We have to jump into action. Let's go. But at some point, now that you've had a chance to do the work and look back on it, what was that initial? What was the initial feeling when all this started happening?
Well, if I can start with the feeling I have now, I would say it's a little bit of a feeling of whiplash, right? It feels a little bit like, wow, that was so fast. But we have to remember that did start happening here, I guess, a long time ago, right? Almost
Mhm.
2 years ago that we saw this increase of asylum seekers in our city. And I think, for us, again, our attitude has been the same. We're serving the community and meeting people where they're at. Um, and there's no, I guess, how do I say this? No preferential treatment or anything needed. It's just we notice this crunch of, gosh, we're spread really thin. And I think all of our partner organizations can say the same, where we've all been really strapped, not only in the resources that we are able to provide, because they're just, we're limited, but then also in the support that we have from, agencies within the city.
There are going to be a few opportunities here to put the city on blast, if you will,
Oh,
about, yes, more than a few before this is over with today, for how they have been dealing with the issue of the houseless in Chicago in general. Um,
wow.
Not just with the migrant issue, and I hate using the word migrant, with the new neighbors who are here, and with the existing neighbors that have been here and that have been going through it for decades. Some people have been homeless more than half of their life. But in your estimation, how is the city handling this the entirety of houselessness in Chicago?
Yeah, again, I'll go back to our third value of collaboration. And we, I think, have done a fairly decent job of reaching out to the city and working with our city partners. I think you said put the city on blast, and I don't really care to do that so much as I care more about amplifying the fact that we are doing our darndest to make sure that we're working together, right? These problems are not going to be solved in a vacuum. I can't solve them alone. The Orange Tent Project can't solve them alone. But I think when we talk about reaching out to our city leadership and trusting that they'll make the choices that need to be made, I think, that's kind of where we're at. Our biggest hurdle right now, as I've mentioned, and you mentioned at the top of the hour, we're facing a La Nina winter, right? We're facing probably one of the harshest winters. It is already sub 30 outside, right? This weekend's forecast is not looking pleasant, so to speak. And I think, right now we're trying to get the city to commit to better warming shelters for our neighbors experiencing homelessness. Right now, there is very limited in terms of factual information out there. Where is the nearest warming center? How do I get to the nearest warming center? What is available 24/7? What does 24/7 actually mean to the city of Chicago? Right, because we've had instances where we've had people we serve who have been turned away. Really unfortunate instances in the city of Chicago. So again, I would really focus more on that collaboration piece and hope that the city also recognizes that us organizations we're trying to collaborate with the city and partner with the city to make a better Chicago.
Fair enough. Put them on blast is strong. I will admit that. I just think part of what we do when we have these conversations is that we don't put them or bring them to the carpet enough, and to say, we see what you're trying to do. This is what we're doing. And you mentioned it, a collaborative effort always works. You mentioned the warming centers, though. When we had Mr. Meany on the show on the first visit with the Orange Tent Project, I posed a question to him. Why is it that a warming center closes at sundown? And why isn't there more 24/7 warming centers, not just for the unhoused, but for people who need to be warm and who may not have heat in their building that they live in or whatever. And I had asked around, and I asked some alder friends of mine, why isn't this more of an issue when it comes to sub-zero temperatures in Chicago? Because as any Chicagoan of any period of time knows, when it gets cold here, it's different.
It's a different kind of cold.
It is a different kind of world when it is cold in Chicago. To your knowledge, has there been any movement at all on extending the hours of warming centers in the city?
We are part of a coalition in the city with other partner organizations who are fighting for that exact movement. We are asking for 6 different things, if you don't mind me running through them real quickly here.
Please.
We're asking, our coalition is urging the city to implement the following life-saving measures. The first one would be deploying CTA mobile warming buses. So we're asking station CTA buses at all major unhoused encampments as mobile warming centers. These buses will, we hope, or we're asking that they'll welcome everyone who is in need, replicating the city's successful use of buses during the August 2006 heat wave, which is quite awful. The second part of that is we're asking the city to expand warming center accessibility. Currently, I believe there's one warming center, and I would need to fact check that, but there's one warming center that is accessible. And I mean, imagine the city's a big place, big place. We know this. And so asking the city to open all 6 of the warming centers with round the clock access to meet essential needs. We also are fighting for overnight rest or guaranteed overnight rest for individuals who may need to sleep on warming buses or at centers without being denied access. We are asking for the simple preservation of human dignity. Our fourth pillar of that is to facilitate transportation to these shelters. So should the shelter not be a mobile unit, We would ask that the city provide unsheltered individuals accessible transportation from warming buses and city warming centers to any available shelter beds, which we know are limited, but this ensures safe passage to more stable conditions in our city. We're also asking, one of the points that I think is a big piece of news for individuals in this line of work is the Grants Pass versus Johnson ruling that criminalized homelessness across the country. So we're asking that any encampment closures and tent removals during the winter months cease. The same way that we turn on the warming lights on the CTA stations, we're asking that they suspend that during the cold months, right? The November to, I believe it's April 1st. The last piece we're asking for is that we raise the winter weather response threshold to 40 degrees Fahrenheit and include wind chill. Right now, the city's extreme weather response plan is only enacted at a certain threshold. So we're asking that this threshold be adjusted to account for the reality that even at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, strong winds can bring the effective temperature down to quite dangerous levels. And we've encountered several individuals who are experiencing frostbite. So these are, I believe, and our organization believes, very simple requests for the city of Chicago. We're just looking for those needs to be met for before we head into these really harsh months.
And if I may, this is part of an initiative with the call for the expansion of Chicago's extreme weather response plan. And that can be found on the Orange Tent Project's website, orangetentproject.org. If I may, I just want to read a quote, and then if I can I give the email if folks are interested in contacting about this specific part?
Sure.
Okay, well, first let me just say that Chicago Street Medicine, the Loyola Center for Community and Global Health, the Orange Tent Project Chicago, NWS Outreach, the Chicago Help Initiative, and Illinois State Representative Lindsay LaPointe came together to form a coalition to reiterate the call that was made this summer in June for Mayor Johnson, Chief Soto, and the City Council to improve Chicago's extreme weather response plan. And here's a part of it for me, and it's right at the beginning of this that I think is very important, and kind of what me and Mr. Meany were getting at when we had this very conversation a year or so ago. And I quote, "We envision a city that cares for everyone during extreme weather. We call on Mayor Johnson, Chief Soto, and City Council to organize a multi-agency full force of government response in coordination with Chicago's health systems and the larger community," close quote. How close are you? This was in September. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. The email is getintoach@extremweatherplannerschicago.com. I will give it out again as we go through the show, toward the end of the show for sure. This was in September. We're reaching, December is Saturday. No, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, Sunday. Scary stuff.
All of it. December is Sunday. How much movement has been made since this coalition was formed to get these warming centers and subsequently cooling centers to extend their hours and to actually extend those programs during extreme weather?
As all things, I feel like in the city, we're approaching the deadline, if you want to call the winter months the deadline, and we are just now having conversations. This plan that the coalition, launched, we've been speaking about this for a while now. There's a press release available about it on our website that was launched on November 21st. So 5 days ago, we launched our request to the city. These meetings have just recently happened. So we have been talking about this. You said September of 24, but we've been talking about this all year. We've experienced horrible tragedy with individuals that we serve and just throughout our city where other partner agencies have served, where we've experienced great loss of life because warming centers have been unavailable to people.
It is unfathomable to me as a lifelong Chicagoan that a warming center would close when it is the coldest outside. because when the sun goes down, no matter how cold it is in the day while the sun is out, it gets markedly colder at night. And this was my plea that day when talking to Mr. Meany, and I'm saying it again. This is inhumane is strong, but it is very odd that you would have a city with the size of Chicago that does not see the value of making sure that the period of time to keep that risk of death and frostbite and everything else the lowest is during those hours when the sun is not out or not daylight hours in the city. And places like the Harold Washington Library, there are other big structures that could be considered for 24/7 warming centers. I don't know if that's the most egregious thing that I've ever heard, but and like I said, I don't want to use the word inhumane because that's just a really strong accusation, and I'm not accusing the city of being inhumane in any way, but I'm concerned that this hasn't happened already, and we're talking traditional Chicago weather, decades of inclement, extreme weather, either it's smoking hot or freezing cold. I want to ask, how do you measure? I'm really trying not to get emotional about this,
No,
but
you're okay. I'm right there with you.
I
I'm
just
right there with you.
how do you not want to have this be a thing like automatically? And again, I go back to the fact that the city has a budget issue. I get that, but there's also a morality issue, I believe. And I don't know if there's a money amount you can put on your morality. And the idea of telling someone that's been in a library all day, staying warm, okay, it's 4 o'clock, it's 5:30, you gotta go. And good luck, see you tomorrow, maybe.
Well, and not to mention, I mean, for these warming centers that are currently available, one, they're open from 9 to 5. Two, they're accessible through calling 311. I mean, already several barriers here that I can see, right? You have to have a phone to be able to call 311 for a warming center, and you have to be able to get to that warming center. They also, so we've identified this challenge of them not being available at night. If someone does need shelter overnight, they have to then call 311 again. And the average wait time to get into one of those shelters is 12 hours. And this is estimated placement rate too. So there's another caveat, estimated placement rate of 35%. So even if you've waited these 12 hours, only a 35% chance that you're going to get into one of these warming centers. So we really have done, the city of Chicago has done a disservice to our unhoused population. They're so restrictive, right? It's so restrictive to be able to offer this basic thing. Chicago winters are no surprise, right? Every forecaster in the city of Chicago has been talking about La Nina since the last winter ended. And yet we still do not have answers as a community for how we're going to support our unhoused neighbors. Not to mention something, we haven't mentioned in the last 20 minutes. We have an influx of individuals here who are not used to cold climates. So you've got this group of people who have been here a couple winters, and then you've got the people who just have arrived here, who have been sent here by Governor Abbott, and they have no concept of what they're facing, and it's going to be cold. So we are asking for answers, and we're asking for support from the city.
As Lumpin Radio's unofficial chief meteorologist, it's not just going to be cold this year, it's going to snow a lot too. And that causes its own set of problems getting around in Chicago in the snow. And you're right. There are people who've lived here their whole lives that aren't used to this cold weather that we have here. And to ask someone from a completely different climate, hey, here's a coat, here's some boots, buckle up. It's about to be cold, but you have no idea how cold it is. And you may have to wait to get a place to stay, you and your family. That's just strong to me. And I really, I get my mouth in trouble so much. My mouth gets me in trouble so much. But if there's anything that I can do to help with this, I would be glad to do it, because it's just unconscionable to me that you would tell somebody at 5 o'clock, good luck. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You'll get that.
And you mentioned it as well. I think we often forget that the summer months get hot. Look at, for example, we experienced a huge issue and barrier to entry on the uh, cooling center information that was available for the June 19th cooling centers that were open. It was confusing for individuals who needed access to these cooling centers. There was late communication. I mean, the forecast is no surprise, right? I don't know about you, but I look at the I watched the 7-day forecast for a reason. And so it was no surprise to anyone that it was going to be, ungodly temperatures outside. And yet there was only one place open for people to cool off and seek shelter in the heat. There was no, we've experienced internal communication challenges or late and inconsistent communication. I mean, it's just been a mess. We'll leave it at mess and use that word. But we're really just asking the city for three simple things. One, open at night. Can we have something open at night? Can something be open to everyone? Even not all nonviolent and disruptive individuals should be allowed a warm space, right? We just believe in the basic human right of shelter, and then something that is open all season, right? Every night from October to April, shelters are the most effective when the community does not have to guess when it will be open.
All right, I'm on it. Alder Lee and my friends Alder Vasquez and Alder Yancey, those are my people. I will be on the phone and asking
Make those phone calls.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I can't stress this enough. If there is a way for you, if you are so inclined and want to know more about how to help or how to help your voice be heard in this matter. And the reason why I'm really talking about this is because I am afraid if the planet's climate is changing. I'm just very afraid that this winter is going to be the winter where we go, uh-oh, this is real. This change is really, really, really happening, and it's not going to get any better. Get in touch at extremeweatherplannerschicago.com. Chicago's extreme weather response should be all out for the people, no matter how it goes down, no matter who they are, where they came from. If they're here, they're here. And you can only do what you can do where your feet are, right? So I am very hopeful that the Orange 10 Project and your partners in this matter, in this coalition, with the voice of the people, that would be all of us listening to the show, are able to assist in that effort. We're going to take a break in a moment. And on the other side of that break, I want to talk more about the Trump administration and how the Orange Tent Project, and I'm sure there's been conversations, if you guys have had those conversations about what to expect and how to counter with a lot of what may happen. And I also want to talk about these orange tents. In my travels around the city, I see them in places, and I know during the summer, there was a lot of relocating of people. I want to talk about that too, and talk about the future of the Orange Tent Project and how serving this great city, how it may have changed you in many ways since you started doing this. We're with Mary Kate Mack of the Orange Tent Project, and this is the inaugural edition of season 2 of the Mutual Aid Report, and we are very grateful and thankful that you are joining us on it. This is WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. When we come back, more of the Mutual Aid Report. We'll be back right after these words. Welcome back to the Mutual Aid Report here on WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. My name is Mario Smith. Thank you so much for listening to the program today. We are spending time with the Orange Tent Project's Mary Kate Mack. She is a founding board member of the Orange Tent Project. We spent a fair amount of time talking about new arrivals and the warming centers fiasco. I'll use that word.
Good word.
and how the city can change that whenever they want, really. In this segment of the program, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, in this segment of the program, I wanted to talk about how the Trump administration and what they are doing or not doing, uh, how this is going to affect what you guys do on the ground. And I know you mentioned earlier that there was a fear of what's going on, but what is it exactly that you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think with what the Trump administration has doubled down on is that, a sanctuary city like Chicago is even more important for those asylum seekers who have entered our country. And so our fear is that with more and more people seeking asylum in the city of Chicago, being a sanctuary city, it's only going to continue to deplete non-existing or little existing resources. That's not to say that we're not willing to step in and serve, which of course we absolutely are. I just think there's already a shortage of shelter in the city of Chicago. And so, with what the Trump administration has doubled down on, we are anticipating a greater need across our city for those individuals who are houseless.
Has there been was there a conversation amongst all of you guys when the election ended with your board and with your team where you said, okay, we need to strategize because anything could happen. And as we mentioned earlier, there's there's more than enough evidence that it will be a very grandiose plan that has no legs to it. Although that may be different based on the way that that Congress is set up. But did you all have a conversation about strategy and what method you would use to counteract certain things from this new administration?
I think that's a really great question, Mario, but I will establish that, our sleeves have always been rolled up since day one. And so I think we've always been forward thinking that things in our country can change at any moment, right? Even earlier this year, as I mentioned earlier in the hour, the recent grants pass versus Johnson ruling, it just caused it criminalized homelessness. We'll put it that way, very just basically. We believe that Chicago really needs to continue to lead with focus on sustainable housing pathways and collaborative community-informed approaches to encampment resolutions instead of criminalization. But we do, our city partners, our community partners, the city leaders and community partners are both working collaboratively to ensure that we're not criminalizing homelessness in this city. So I think, the conversation around being unhoused in America has certainly heightened. However, we've been laser focused, like I said, on making sure that we are relationship led, relationship driven, meeting people where they're at in houselessness.
We also spoke about, you mentioned rather the grants pass versus Johnson ruling on the criminalization of homelessness. Talk to me more about that and what efforts the Orange Tent Project are doing to hold people accountable to that ruling.
Yeah, well, I mean, for one, we worked nationally with organizations who were, signing petitions or championing for this not to go through, right? For the ruling to be in favor of people who are sleeping in public spaces. But we have worked with the city on having open conversations about relocation efforts. If you are familiar, earlier this year, we had the Democratic National Convention in the city, and one of our very popular areas was closed. The fence used to, I just would like to add, the fence used to that they put up to keep people out of that area was an $800,000 fence. And that could have housed, I believe we did the math, and it was 33 some odd people for a year. So everyone in that encampment could have received housing for the same cost that it was for this fence or barrier to keep people out. And I mean, I think in a lot of ways that fence is a symbol of the barriers that we've seen to being able to work with the city in a lot of ways. However, we continue to forge ahead in order to work alongside our city partners when they are looking to relocate individuals.
Also, you mentioned the convention. There was a lot of relocation that took place. Where did they put all those people that were houseless? We covered the convention on Lumpin' Radio, and I didn't see half of the people that I would normally see in the city in various spots. I was at McCormick Place and at the United Center and didn't see folks. Where did everybody go?
Yeah, there were several available shelters which have now closed. Several shelters that were available. There were shelters also in South Shore. And what I just want to point out here is in these encampments, it's not, when you think of an encampment, or maybe you're listening to this and thinking like, oh, it's easy to move when you're living on, outside, or you're experiencing homelessness. And that's not the case. I mean, a lot of these individuals we serve and work with are people who work and people who leave their tent during the day and come back at night or what have you. And this is where they live. And so when you're asking people to go to South Shore or go far away to a shelter or break away from their community that they've known for a period of time, you're asking a lot. I mean, imagine being asked to move somewhere far away from reliable transportation, for one, two, your community or your people, and three, likely your job or the way you're able to, stay afloat. So I think, in relocation is more than just saying, we got you a bed somewhere. It's pulling people away from the community that they know. And so, we would ask that the city work alongside organizations like ours to ensure that, where we're facing or where we're working with people, we're meeting them where they're at. We're getting to know them. We're getting to know what exactly it is they need. So there is not a one blanket solution when you're relocating individuals. And we would hope that the city continue to work with us and other city nonprofits to find the right housing opportunities for individuals experiencing homelessness.
I think it's safe to say that there is a high visibility rate of the work that the Orange Tent Project does. If anyone has driven around Chicago and seen these bright orange fishing tents, if you were ice fishing, that is, and you had to sit on the ice, you would have one of these tents. Unfortunately, but fortunately that you guys are here for it, they're everywhere. How and in our notes, our combined notes that you and I took, you say that there are 180 plus individuals on your waiting list for tents, and I imagine that includes families and youth and things of that nature. How are you guys doing on tents? Is there a need for more of those, or are you guys doing, or do you have an effort afoot for getting more tents?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of our efforts are concentrated on our Instagram channels. I feel like that's where we've built a lot of our community. It's at Orange Tent Project on Instagram. And that's where we're able to, message out to our audience and say, we're doing a build on Saturday, or we're doing a build tomorrow. We need help and hands. We have built, just recently, last weekend, we built 10 tents, 10 brand new tents for individuals who are waiting. These 10 tents went up in 4 hours, thanks to our 10 amazing volunteers, not to mention our support system, people who provided lumber, people who provided propane, people who donated to support these tents. Currently, we're running an initiative to build 90 tents in 30 days. 30 days is a rough number, but 90 tents is the exact. We'd love to knock out half of that waiting list by year's end. in order to meet half of the need. I'd love to build all 180. I really would. And I want to make that clear that even if we get to the 90 in our goal, we will still have 90 individuals who are on a waiting list. That doesn't mean that necessarily they don't have anywhere to stay. Maybe they have a not weather appropriate tent. Maybe they're staying with a friend in a different tent. Maybe they're anticipating their situation is changing. So we are on a big push right now to connect people to these opportunities. And I also just want to take a second to say that, tents are not our goal, right? Our goal is a world where we don't need tents, right? And we're going to continue to work with agencies within the city and our community partners till, to reach that goal. And until we do, we're going to meet people where they're at. Provide shelter and whatever else is needed, whether it's a meal, a blanket. I've had people ask me for wash basins and toothbrushes. And so, being able to have a face and a name and a person and a connection is so valuable to what our organization is doing.
We're with Mary Kate Mack from the Orange Tent Project here on the Mutual Aid Report on WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio and lumpinradio.com. There are, on your website, if people want to get involved, there is a space for folks to be able to do that. How important is it for an organization like yours to have volunteers?
Oh my gosh, beyond important. That's we cannot do it without our volunteers. And if I may just use this as an opportunity to offer.
I got the mic off. Hi.
Could you type up radio?
If I could use this moment as an opportunity to say thank you to our volunteers and our volunteer base. Volunteers are incredibly important to us. And just as I mentioned with the Albany Park build that we did last weekend, we were able to put up 10 new tents with the work of 10 volunteers in 4 hours. If we had 20 volunteers, it would have taken 2 hours, right? By simple math. So I'd say that volunteers are instrumental to what we do. Not only in our tent builds, there are opportunities for individuals who maybe are not able to build tents. We have a lot of different events throughout the year, whether it's in attending various markets or speaking about our organization at small pop-ups for merch or whatever that looks like. We still need those individuals to support in that way. And we're always looking for volunteers to help us with things like marketing and, kind of these behind the scenes things that board members are currently responsible for. Predominantly too, I think just if I could make a call out, we're looking for volunteers who have an interest in grant writing and fundraising as well. And that seems to be or continues to be one of the biggest places of importance for us.
Okay. In the world of live radio, Mary Kate, there's a lot that happens. And there's so much that happened in the last 20 minutes that I can't even begin to tell you what happened, but everything is fine.
It's okay.
We run one of the best ships sailing on Lake Michigan. So, we're always in good hands. I'm a big fan of the Orange Tent Project because it really simplifies the ask, if you will, about what to do, how to do, and all that. You have a FAQ that I find fascinating because these are questions that everyone has. One of them is, I saw someone experiencing homelessness. How do I get them a tent? So I'm asking, how do I get somebody who it may be homeless? How do I get them to you, or how do I get you to them so that they can get a tent or other forms of shelter or need that they may have?
Yeah, I think early on in our beginning years, we'd get a lot of phone calls or emails from individuals, Instagram messages, whatever, who would say, oh, I saw someone down on, whatever cross street under whatever bridge, they need a tent. And we'd say, well, did you talk to them? No. You know, we would do the work of going out and talking to these individuals. You know, there were times and there are times where people don't want to tent, or people were maybe just sleeping there for the evening. And that's not to say we would deny anyone. I think that's more to say or encourage people who encounter someone who's experiencing homelessness or living on the streets, to have a conversation. Of course, if it's safe, or you feel safe, have that conversation and ask, you know, can I connect you with a community agency that would be able to provide support? I think that's step one. Step two is we have a form on our website, an intake form, if you will, where if you are asking that question, everyone's got, you know, a smartphone in their pocket these days. And so I would encourage people who are listening and experience this to take out their smartphone, walk through that questionnaire. It's very simple and straightforward. You can ask the individual the list of questions on the intake form and submit. It will go to our team, and our team will be able to reach out. So I think that's the best way to get our services. You know, and our services aren't just we show up, we build a tent, we leave. Our services are more thorough, where we work with several partner agencies to not only provide shelter, but also provide food and, you know, connection. Connection is number one for us, right? We're offering support services. I mean, just last year, we were able to get 6 people into addiction treatment, 6 people connected to employment, 8 people connected to legal aid, 10 people and counting into housing over the last year, and 15 people into medical assistance. And these might seem like small numbers, maybe compared to some of these big fish organizations that are able to do more, but I think it's really impressive and a testament to a group of individuals who are just willing to, like I said, roll up their sleeves and get to work.
There is a plethora of partners that you guys work with. Before we close this out, I feel it's important to mention those folks because they do amazing things on their own. And in turn, they're able to help you guys out. Could you, would you be so kind as to go through this wonderful list of people, including our own beloved Mars Brewing Company, that are helping you guys out?
I feel like if I'm going to miss someone, and I would hate to do that, but you know, we are working with the Coalition for the Homeless. We are working with Shy Cares. They've worked with us in delivering meals. Our list is very long, and again, I feel like I will miss names if I don't have it in front of me. So I did not come prepared with that list. Mars Brewing, of course, has been such a great partner of ours. There are many small businesses throughout the city of Chicago who have supported us in terms of being donation drop centers. Mm-hmm. You know, we're so grateful for the continued support there. And again, I think it's just a call out to the volunteers who have supported us over the last couple of years that we've been an organization. They really are the backbone of our organization, and we're so grateful.
For our audience that's listening, there is a 2023 impact report available on the Orange Tent Project's website, orangetentproject.org, that goes into great detail about the work that is being done. And my strong suggestion is that you check it out so that you can see where everything is. And it's one thing to say we want to do something. It's quite another thing to be, again, boots on the ground in the middle of it, doing it. You guys are kind of like the postal service when it was running well. It doesn't matter the weather. You guys are out there. You're making it happen and giving people an opportunity for hope. And that, to me, if that doesn't mean anything to anyone else, to me that's an amazing thing. So I'm also encouraging folks to go to the website and see all of it. There's a section about getting involved. If you have a service request or a referral, you can do that. You can even there's a really cool hoodie that you could get that will serve as your donation, but you can wear your donation around the city. I like the black one myself. I'm preferential to the black hoodie. And there's events and all kinds of things, a calendar and all that stuff. And as we slide into our close for tonight or today, what is the future of the Orange Tent Project? What is it that I guess ultimately all organizations like yours that do what you do, although you're very unique at what you do, I imagine that all organizations one day want to say we don't want to do this anymore. We want to be able to say that our mission was accomplished and we can move on to another need for humanity. But if I could dare ask, what is the future, or what does the future hold for the Orange Tent Project?
Yeah, great question, Mario. I think you hit the nail on the head there with, we envision a future where our services are no longer needed. But I think in the immediate in 2025, continuing to build our relationship with partner organizations and the city of Chicago, with the asks that I've requested earlier in the interview, and then also just a lot of fundraising efforts. Right, we've really built up a really good base of volunteers, and now we really need to hit the ground running to continue our services. Right, keep our operations afloat. We will not stop showing up for our neighbors. We've had a lot of ups and downs, as many organizations have over the years. And I mean, we're a baby. We're a little organization. We're only a couple years in existence. And so I think for us, just continuing to show up for our neighbors, work with the city, and fight for basic human needs in Chicago.
Well, a little organization, you say. I say a little organization that does big things in the greatest city in the world. It's folks like your CEO, Megan McLucky, who is an amazing human being. And I don't know if she remembers me or not. I know her a very tiny bit, but her level of understanding is vast. Yours as well. Jim Meany, who's your vice chair, just a really cool dude who saw it and said, let me do something about it. People like that, Mary Morgan and Kathy Lawton and Diane Falanga and Reina Estrada. It's to have an organization that does not have a ton of people behind it, being able to just knock it out the park, man, and be there to help where the help is needed. It is appreciated and it is noticed. And we really here at Lumpen Radio and at the Mutual Aid Report want to thank you for being on the show today, Mary Kate. And if there's anything that we can do with our bully pulpit, please let us know. And I am dead serious about this, the winter extreme. I'm boiling that this is not something that has happened already. So this 2 visits from Orange Tent Project, and we're gonna get it done on this second visit. I can't wait to get out of here and get on the phone and talk to some of my friends who sit downtown and see if we can help out. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Truly appreciate it. And again, where there is a need, the Orange Tent Project is there. And if you need our help, we got you.
Thank you so much, Mario.
Really appreciate your time. Mary Kate Mack from the Orange Tent Project. I want to thank our producer, Charlie Garcia, who was doing a very unique form of communicating with me this afternoon that no one will see but me. And I appreciate him letting me know what was going on in our studio. On our next Mutual Aid Report in 2 weeks, Ariandi Luna, don't beat me up, will be our host then. We want to thank executive producer Stephanie Manriquez as well for helping out with the show today. Everyone, be kind, be kind, be kind. Enjoy your holiday, and thank you so much for listening. This is the Mutual Aid Report. And this is WLPNOP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio.